I never aim at the bullseye of a target. I don't like perfect. Perfect is not attainable. I know you want to achieve and do great work, but whenever I heard the word perfect, I'm like, it just creates anxiety, stress, and pressure. But I know for a fact, my team and I don't miss the target, right? We know we're surrounding the bullseye, and then our client helps us calibrate. We kind of play too hot, too cold, just right. We surround the bullseye, and eventually we hit the bullseye.
Welcome to Limitless Minds, the podcast where curiosity meets greatness. Each week, co-hosts DJ Eitzen and Harry Wilson sit down with some of the most exceptional individuals across sports, business, and beyond. From world-class athletes and peak performance coaches to visionary CEOs, entrepreneurs, and influential authors, they dive deep into the stories and strategies that drive extraordinary success. If you're ready to discover what it takes to be truly limitless and push beyond your own limits, you're in the right place.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at you're sitting here and you're like, well, wait a second, when are Harry and DJ actually coming back to host this thing? It's going to happen next week. I promise. But Harry and I decided to jump on together today, not for our own benefit, but we're going to interview somebody who's a close friend of both of ours. So that's why the both of us are here today. But prior to doing that, we got Harry, success leaves clues. We're going to dive into that, but the Nooch nuggets. I know you said that you had the Polynesian sauce on your nuggets and all this kind of good stuff, but what are some, where I just want to kind of ask you, from this last week, from, maybe the last month or something, just give the audience, a time where either you use neutral thinking to get yourself neutral and to move through a situation, or you observe somebody using that neutral mindset to help them get through it. In other words, you're Nooch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my Nooch nugget today is, on a personal level, obviously you lead a business, you lead a company, and there's so many different examples of kind of in the corporate space, I happen to be neutral, but when I'm not, doing work with Limitless Minds, I'm doing work as a father, right? I got, these 3 kids that play sports, one that's getting older and competing at a high level. And so, we think about athletes that miss a critical shot or strike out or, don't run the time they thought, right? And, and if you just kind of run up them and say, hey, and react positively, right? Hey, it's okay, you're amazing, or negatively, hey, that was terrible. It can create some emotional noise, right? Staying neutral, obviously, is the best way to go, without judgment, without grading, focus on process. So, hey, you were off balance on that shot, right? Is probably a better kind of neutral piece to say, hey, this is just from a behavior perspective. Your footwork was a little rough. Let's adjust it here, right? Let's adjust your stance. Let's adjust your footwork. Keep the focus on the facts and the solutions, right? Not judgment. And so then when I think about my oldest daughter, Gracie, it's really hard to kind of be like parent, and I'm not her coach, right? I'm her parent, but also, I do have this particular unique set of skills on trying to help her kind of recognize and stay aware, right? And so
Sure.
I was trying to figure out how to do this because, as a parent, maybe you've been there, you see your kid on the field and there's certain things that they're not doing, or maybe doing too much of, or showing up a certain way, whether it be body language, their mindset, whether it be certainly kind of footwork, these types of things. And the challenge with her age at 13, she doesn't typically watch film. She doesn't really see herself in action. So I give her all these tips and tricks and things, or things to think about. And she says yes, or she understands, but I don't think she really does, because she's not looking in the mirror, right? It'd be like if you had something in between your teeth, right? And nobody says anything. Well, you don't know.
Do I right now? No.
Okay. You don't. But if you look in the mirror, you'll see it, or somebody tells you, right? And so you need that accountability partner. And so I was trying to think of ways to kind of keep her neutral, while also kind of making sure that she can kind of own this, kind of understanding the process. And so I bought a camera, a nice one, right? The Xbot Go Chameleon, by the way. So this is sponsored by Xbot Chameleon. No, but
we're just calling out the sponsors these weeks.
But with this, so I can, me or my wife can help her by recording these games and creating these little clips. And what's neat is that now, for the first time, she's able to kind of watch herself in action, right? Yeah. And so that's cool. So we were watching it last night, but then I was telling her, I was like, here's the process I want you to go through, and I want you to own. Grab a notebook, a journal, right, and draw 2 lines. One has a plus, one has a minus, and then one that has P for process, right? And so what her homework is, when she has time to watch the film, is that she's going to write things that she sees from a behavior perspective that were a plus, right? That were a plus, and write those down to congratulate yourself, celebrate that. you're gonna things that were a minus, right? Things that you missed, things oh shoot, I should have been here, or man, I see what Dad's talking about, like my body language after I lost the ball, like whatever it is, like write those things down and be really honest. And then the most important part is that that P column. Write down what process or behavior you're going to implement to recover from that negative next time, right?
That's
and just
awesome.
go through this process. So you can recognize the negative, acknowledge it. You can also recognize the positive, but let's focus on the process to either continue those pluses or to mitigate against those minuses in the future, right? And she loved her eyes kind of lit up, because she was like, oh, like this is something that like I have control over. And her eyes are also lighting up when she's actually able to see herself on, like on film, and kind of now whatever Dad's complaining about or barking at her about, now she's like, oh, I see that. Wow.
Quick question for you. Are you filming the whole scene, or are you just focused on her?
Filming the whole game. So I mean, I can send highlights to her teammates if I wanted to, right?
Okay.
So the whole game head to toe. Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's your challenge next time.
Mm-hmm.
Just film her for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just her.
Mm-hmm.
Like zoom in on that. We used to do this at the academy. This is a Trevor Moad trick. He used to do this all the time with the soccer players, because soccer, they would, soccer guys, their brains would go wherever, right? And you get lost. There's 11 people out there. Same thing with field hockey. There's a ton of kids out there.
Yeah.
Do 10 minutes of just her, like kind of like she's the only person in the frame. So you might not even know what's going on in the frame, but it'll show her body language, her all that stuff, her energy, her ability to communicate, all those types of things. That's always even 5 minutes, even 5 to 7 minutes. That's like it's really good.
Smart, because like the Xbot Go Chameleon has a follow me feature, right? Like an AI. It's got an AI follow me feature, so you can actually identify a certain player by their number or whatever. You can identify them, and then the camera will follow them.
Is this one of those cameras that like is on wires, like above the field? Like or is it like on a drone? Is it on a drone?
The camera is only as big as like it's not very big. You can hold it in your hand. It sits on a tripod, and then you put your phone in it, and it goes and all the files go to an app on your phone. It's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Check it out. But anyway, so that's my news nugget, man. It's just like giving.
I like that.
Whether it's a kid playing sports or whether it's an individual contributor on your sales team or something like that, is like, giving them a way to look in the mirror a little bit, right? And giving them the opportunity to not only just celebrate wins or to like kind of, identify all the shit they did wrong, but it's like being able to kind of put things in the plus column, put things in the minus column, and then make sure that there's a process associated with how you're either going to continue that. So I think that helps build that conscious competence. Right.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
That unconscious incompetence is, I think, where a lot of, especially youth athletes, but even people in business where they don't know. I mean, like they're doing they're kind of doing what you're asking them to do, but they don't know when it works, why it works. They don't, and how to keep it going. They don't understand, like, if you're giving them feedback, and they're like, I don't see that. And so I think this gives her ownership and trying to build that conscious competence that I think is going to be important for her down the road. So
yeah, she's going to get some clues about success and about failure too, which is awesome. It's great. Sure. It's great. Cool. I would dip that. I would say, what would you dip that in? I feel like that might be just straight up barbecue sauce. That's a barbecue sauce.
Yeah, I think a barbecue sauce. I mean, I might have. I think I always have Chick-fil-A sauce, so it's like a double dip. It's like a dip in barbecue sauce with a double dip in the Chick-fil-A sauce.
Yeah, we're trying to get sponsored by Chick-fil-A too. Can you all hear that?
Yeah. So I don't know, but certainly barbecue sauce for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. My nooch nugget really quickly is a pretty simple one. I had been told I was going to be doing a keynote and then a workshop at an event coming up, and then suddenly I wasn't. Suddenly I was doing the workshop, and the keynote was going to somebody else, and I just kind of came at me out of surprise. So my initial reaction was like a little bit of a, whatever, like, as presenters, we're kind of like, we want to be the quarterback, we want to lead the team. But it was funny because I had an emotional reaction to it initially, and I caught myself, and I was like, what does it matter? Like, what does it matter if I'm up there or somebody else is up there? What matters is that the client is taken care of. And now we get to really dive into that client in maybe a different way. And a lot of times what happens with our work is, people need to hear things in different ways for it to stick for everybody, right? Everybody's voice doesn't resonate with everybody's ears. And so for me, it was like just kind of getting neutral really quickly. And it's like, okay, I'm not doing the keynote. Okay, what's the next right step? The next right step is, okay, make sure that we crush workshops, and then make sure we know what's going to be in the keynote so that the workshops can absolutely shine and thrive and be bright as well, and have some really deep meaning. So that was my news nugget. You were on that call yesterday, Harry. I don't know if you saw my
I can tell you get, yeah, you were a little salty. I mean, the other piece to it is, I think, when you, as you ask more questions, or is like the kind of the facts unveiled.
Yeah.
I think in a particular situation, actually, you realize that, oh, okay, this is the audience and like the scenario, it made sense.
Yes, it
right?
totally
So
makes
you're
sense.
like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? So
100%.
I think that, I mean, I think it's like surface level, it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in expectations, but then when you really look at it, you're like, oh, okay, there's a reason behind it.
And it's all, but it was also like what I always talk about, the great philosopher from South Central LA, and the quote, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah.
Right. If I had to check myself really quickly, right, in that moment, like, why am I, before I wreck myself, like, why am I getting pissed?
Yeah.
I have less work to do now.
Yeah.
Right. So it was awesome. So it was funny. That one would definitely be a honey mustard dip, just so you know. And I'm not, listen, I'm gonna go off script here. And there's a place called PDQ down here in Florida, and their honey mustard is fire.
Yeah.
Fire. It's unbelievable. It's very addicting. And so I would use that honey mustard for that.
Honey mustard. Honey mustard, it's gotten lost on me, I think, because of the Chick-fil-A sauce. No, they're two different sauces.
Well, listen, Chick-fil-A sauce is Michael Jordan. It is the GOAT. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? So I get that.
Yeah.
But the honey mustard.
Yeah, have you ever bought the Chick-fil-A sauce like that you can find in like a store and brought it home?
You can buy it. Yeah. Now you can buy it.
Nice.
I have not bought it at a store. I kind of like.
You can use it as a marinade. Like when you let's say you barbecue and chicken, use it as a marinade. Put it in there for like a night in the refrigerator.
Listen.
Telling you,
people aren't even going to want it. They're going to shut the podcast off right now and start cooking. This is turned into a cooking podcast.
Well, we're cooking,
but it's not a cooking podcast because we have a spectacular guest on. I mean, you know what we got to do? We're going to get a chef on here or a restaurateur on here soon, though. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay. But today, actually, we have a really, really wonderful guest, a man named Justin Hirsch. And it's great because Justin is not only a good friend of ours, but he's also an incredible executive and talent recruiting maverick. Tell him about Justin and tell him who we got coming on here.
Yeah. So Justin serves as the CEO and HR practice group leader at Jobplex. He leads the firm's growth while delivering exceptional client service and deep business expertise to a select group of clients. And he's had a 25-year career. And during this 25 plus years in HR executive search, Justin has successfully managed hundreds of mid to senior level placements for Fortune 1000 clients across all industries. He's known for exceptional client service, sharp business insights, and a deep expertise in candidate assessment and development. Justin's clients include HR executives who value his unparalleled ability to partner with them to identify the ideal candidate's profile, attract and present top-tier candidates. He's an advisor in selecting the right candidate who can not only meet the position requirements, but also thrive in the company's culture and business climate. So, Justin also holds a Bachelor of Science in Marketing from IU. He resides up in Chicagoland area in Deerfield, Illinois. He's got a wife and a couple kids, and one of which just went off to college at IU himself. But Justin's a great friend, mentor. He's been in and around the Limitless Minds ecosystem for some time, and we're just excited to share his knowledge, his insights with the audience.
So, without further ado, the man that I consider a great friend, but also an unbelievable mentor. Super excited to have him in studio with us, Harry. Justin Hirsch.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend.
There he is.
Finally, this is about time.
It's so funny. We've had the man, the myth, the legend multiple times. This guy is not a myth. That's the whole key about Justin. This guy is not a myth. He is the real deal. And so
I'm here.
Yeah, you're here, man.
I'm here.
So what's exciting for us is we haven't really talked to anybody who's had your career. And what I mean by that is you have been in a career of absolutely going out there and dominating the field to find incredible talent and then put that talent with the right people. And you've gone from, we're going to kind of talk about it here in a minute, but like basically you were an associate and now you're running the whole dang company. And so we want to hear kind of that whole story and really, really get you going there. But before we do that, before we do that, real quick question, Justin. Real quick question. What were your impressions of Harrison B. Wilson the first time you got to meet this guy? When Harry, like, you met Harry you talked to him maybe online, and then bam, here he is in the flesh. Taller than you thought, bigger than you thought, small. Where were you? What was your mindset there?
Yeah, so we spent a lot of time initially on the phone, and then we got on video, and then you guys were in Chicago. I think at the Chicago Athletic Association, you guys had a room, right, or Chicago Club, one of those two. So it was 2 or 3 of you. You know, Josh, I knew you. I didn't know Harry's colleague. I've got to be honest, I was like most excited about meeting Harry.
Yeah, of course. I mean, come on,
right? I never walk into a room unprepared. So I watched the Room Tilters podcast with Harry and DJ.
Yeah.
So I got a flavor for like the acumen and the style and the personality. So when I walked in the room, the whole team was great. What I was most impressed with, not even surprised because I already felt it on the podcast, Harry's level of presence and authenticity. Super organic. Like, I knew this is the same guy at business as he was on the field when he used to kind of play back in the day. I know he played a little bit too.
A little bit.
Right? And I know how he's the same guy. He's probably, no doubt, the same dad, the same husband, and the same friend. So that level of authenticity was palpable for me. Our connection was instantaneous. And I think, you know, that our first meeting was like 3 hours that night. I remember that vividly too.
Yeah.
And we could have gone longer.
Well, listen, I'll send you a hefty Venmo for those wonderful comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get you paid, Justin. Yeah. Just trying to make you a little bit more money, guys.
Yeah. And I'm just spitting facts. I remember the day. I remember how I felt.
No, I mean, Hirsch and I have been tight from day one. And you know, obviously you mentioned the word mentor, Josh. I mean, you know, Justin's been a great mentor for me, friend, etc. You know, always available, making himself available, even on busy moments, busy days. So super grateful for that. And you know, he's got his right hand Paige who sees him through, you know what I mean? And because I know it's, you know, you're super active in that role you have. And so grateful for Paige too. Shout out Paige.
Let me shout out Paige. 15 years.
That's amazing.
With the same executive assistant who's really my chief of staff.
That's dope.
Yeah, so that's my ultimate testimonial.
It's amazing. So, it's amazing. Yeah, I love it, man. So I mean, and I think that, you know, we've shared some personal journey stuff too, and it's been fun to watch your kids kind of continue to matriculate through, you know, school and beyond, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about some of that a little bit too. But I think it's so it's neat to not just share like business insights and you know decks and you know revenue stuff and all these different things. It's like, hey, like also life, you know what I mean? Because we know these things lead together, and I think we'll talk a little bit about, you know, some of these principles that you know very well, that you've talked with Josh about for years, that you're probably leveraging not only at Jobplex but also personally as a father, et cetera. So I'm just eager to get into it, you know?
Yeah. And you said something which triggered, it's, you know, back in the day, there was work-life balance. That was a thing. I really think post-COVID, there's work-life integration, where these life skills we have, our work and life, family, business, the lines not only just are blurred, you've got to create your own balance in that work-life integration. And a lot of the same skill set, they play at home, they play at work. And, you know, I have a beautiful home office. I'm in the city a couple times a week, but when I'm here, my commute is down the hall.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a harder light switch to work with. Hence the word integration.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of interesting. It's funny you say that. I have a home office as well. Justin, it's always interesting. Like the weekends, my office is upstairs. And so like the weekends, I really strive to keep my laptop in my office and not bring it outside that office, right? Because it's like, that's the place for it. That's the place for work, right? So it's kind of interesting. And I think what happens to us a lot is that we do get caught in that world of, okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. I can get this email done. I can do that. I can do, like, when's the shut off point, you know? And I think that's interesting to kind of talk about that work-life integration. I love that. I think that's a phenomenal statement.
No, so I mean, like, I think what I'd love for our listeners to hear is a little bit about your story. I mean, we've done the the bio, the intro, but give us a little bit about your background story and how you got to where you're at today. Give us a little bit of that love
Yeah,
there.
thanks, Harry. So, Indiana University, undergrad, Kelly School of Business, and got into consulting very early on in my career. Very fortunate, learned a lot about executive recruiting. So in 1998, I joined a boutique 4-person firm just so I can learn all aspects of the business. As an associate, client manager, evolved very quickly, was there for 12 years, became the senior partner at the boutique, just really learned to have my fingerprints on the work, to run lean, yet have really big clients, built the tech practice with Microsoft, Amazon, Google. So really big clients, Chicago based, but had a national footprint. So I learned the power of networking really, really early in my career and kind of playing offense to make things happen. At the time, it was all business travel. This is pre-Zoom era, as I call it. So, the relationships, the solidification of being together in person and client sites was huge for 12 years. It was very formative for me. I learned it was less about what you said, it's how you make people feel. And I never, ever treated candidates, clients, or colleagues like transactions. Like, I was very present before it was cool to be present. And I cared about the relationships. So my practice,
cool to be present. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a thing now.
Yeah.
I was kind of doing it organically. So just with regards to the real relationships and recognizing how to recruit is really engaging people. I was fortunate. My practice primarily was in the human resources executive space, and I focus on the emerging leader level underneath the C-suite. So that manager, senior manager, director, the next generation of talent with great trajectory. So I love that magazine, ESPN Next.
Yeah.
Like, I loved it. So I was always like, who's next? Like, who's that next great talent? So in executive recruiting, I was recruiting the next generation of HR business partner leader over 12 years. Fast forward, all those people I placed were emerging leaders, became mid-level and executive level leaders. Got recruited to Jobplex in 2010. Jobplex was only 5 partners at the time. In 2010, we're within the DHR global ecosystem. Jobplex focuses manager, senior manager, director, senior director. That emerging leader level, we're within DHR global, which does C-level recruiting, VP level recruiting. We grew it from 5 partners at Jobplex to 26 partners in 15 years. So 5X global footprint within DHR, doing that next level. So over 15 years, all those placements now are C-suite executives. So I talk about it's the power of seeding your own lawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? Working with that next gen.
I got a question for you. So this is like an interesting field, right? Like that I didn't even know about until I met you, to be completely honest with you. I hadn't been recruited at and any of that stuff. And it's funny, by the way, that you got recruited by a recruiting firm because you were a really good recruiter. I thought that was kind of fun. What's amazing, Justin, is that, you've been in this career now for, 20 plus years, and to stay in something like that, that doesn't happen by accident. People tend to love what they do. So what is it that kind of like intrigued you about this world that really got you excited about it and keeps your chili hot, I guess is the way to put it. Like, yeah, for the listeners out there, like Justin is like always excited. I mean, he's been doing this for 20 years, and I don't think I've ever gotten on a call with him where he's like, hey, like fired up, So like, what is it about this stuff, that this recruiting, this placing, this, that world that lights you up?
So what we do, so we're industry agnostic. So it's so interesting to learn about companies that are private equity backed portfolio companies. We do work in sports. We'll do work in retail, industrial, consumer. So just learning about all different industries, and every company is different, right? As it relates to how they're structured, their key executives and what they do. And I'm a curious person. I'd much rather listen and ask questions than, present as to what we do and how we do it. Of course, I'm very good about doing that, but it's interesting to see different companies, different structures. And I do like people. I find them fascinating. I really do. Right.
Yeah,
Everybody's different. Everybody's on their
it's
own
that
journey.
curiosity piece,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So it's huge. And it's been 27 years and I still really love it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
You know, like
Feel
I'm,
that.
yeah, I mean, and one thing I'm curious about is, when you're evaluating talent, when you're evaluating this word potential, right? Where somebody's ceiling is, um, do, what are some of the less obvious qualities that you look for, that you identify, that can predict for the companies that you're serving, that you can predict, long-term success or the right fit in a role or a particular organization?
So it's so interesting, the evolution of recruiting the pedigree, right? The school, the different companies, that's still a thing. We recruit the person now holistically, right? We love looking for pattern of behavior and trajectory with promotions in current company, track record of success when people make different moves from company to company. And it really begins now with communication style, personality. And Harry, what I said earlier about you, business acumen,
Hmm.
right? There's a lot of really smart, successful people out there in different shapes and sizes. So, we read job descriptions. It's great, but we talk about player profiles,
Hmm.
right? That's
Mm.
my new verbiage. I'm like, what's the player profile of that executive? Where has her or his promotability been? What's their pattern of success? Then we get eyes on them, right? A little bit less business travel, a lot more Zoom and Teams and meets. We get eyes on them. And we use the description as our guide, but we get to know the person holistically. We double click into them. We have interactive dialogue. Yes, they're being vetted, but it's conversational and it feels like it's a guided discussion as opposed to a hardcore dive deep interview all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm wondering, like in identifying talent in my role or in roles that I've previously been in, one thing that's become part of my like algorithm in my algorithm thinking is really trying to figure out how well this individual can um can navigate adversity. Like, what is their adversity tolerance? What is their psychological flexibility like? How do they handle conflict? Because it's conflict's coming. Adversity is not like maybe there'll be adversity. No, there's going to be adversity, right? Micro, macro, it's coming. And so, like, is there any type of, way that you begin to identify that? Because again, it's early. It's always going to be kind of early in the process. You have professional interviewers out there, right? You got people that are good actors. Have you kind of developed a kind of a framework for how you kind of identify that on behalf of the companies that you're planning on placing these folks
Yeah,
into?
so every one of our searches is unique. During our kickoff call and calibration sessions, our client is helping us customize key questions that they want us to ask each candidate. We have scorecards. So we still have tell me about a time when those questions. And Harry is a good call out. Like there's adversity, there's challenges everywhere. We are assessing candidates' ability to navigate ambiguity and demonstrate
Hmm.
resilience. And
Hmm.
tell me about a time when you had a
Yeah.
challenging internal business partner, you had an issue with your boss, um, you had to put out this kind of fire. How'd you do it? How'd you recover? So we get them talking. It's important to hear not their sale, but their storytell. We like the story. We like when it's impactful. You heard me use the word earlier, like fingerprints. We want to
Yeah.
assess like how they got through it, what they did to navigate, and where their fingerprints were on the problem solve, and how they demonstrated their own resiliency and navigated through something, not around it. Big difference.
Mm.
Navigating through. Around is kind of like, okay. I'm like through it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
words matter to me. I'm listening for descriptive words as to how people describe their experiences, right? That's an
Yeah.
indication of wiring, and I project success as
Yeah.
it relates to the right
Words
candidate.
are often language is often a X-ray into the soul, right? You
Well
can
said.
really see what's going on there. Speaking of that, like how did you like this is my curiosity. Like how does anybody even like show up on your radar? You know what I mean? Like, because I know, like, whatever, coming from the baseball world, okay, we see the stats, we know that, we know this, we know that about a person. There's all the perfect game things. There's, there's also sorts of stuff that you can find, how you can find talent out there. So how does it like, how do you do that? Like, do you have like a team that goes out and like, peruses the LinkedIn landscape, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, this person looks talented, she looks amazing, or how does it work?
Yeah, so I'm a working CEO, which means
Okay.
I lead the entire Jobplex business group globally, and I'm still a search partner too. So I have my own clients as well. I've got a team of 5 dedicated um, associates, senior associates, director, client delivery, and then Paige is I'll call her the orchestra conductor. Okay. We do start a ton of our work doing name gen and networking via LinkedIn. However, we've been doing it long enough. We know people. We make phone calls. We send texts and emails. We talk about new searches, and we ask our cultivated network to handpick us people of interest. People of interest can be a positive thing, right? People of interest, not candidates. Who should we know of? Who should we talk to? So very clearly and quickly, we get a list of 68 down to 12. It's a curated list, right? Our clients have us on retainer for quality. We don't impress with noise ever, right? We guide the conversation that it's quality. Intersection of quality and speed is what I say. We calibrate quickly. We get smart. We are not perfectionists. Ready for this? Fun fact, I never aim at the bullseye of a target. I'm an archer. I am.
Explain that. Extrapolate that.
Yeah. I don't like perfect. Perfect is not attainable. I know you want to, achieve and do great work, but whenever I heard the word perfect, I'm like, it just creates anxiety, stress, and pressure. But I know for a fact my team and I don't miss the target, right? We know we're surrounding the bullseye, and then our client helps us calibrate. We kind of play too hot, too cold, just right. We surround the bullseye, and eventually we hit the bullseye. We just don't aim for it out of the gate. We're not perfectionists. We have to get smarter. That's part of it's an interactive calibration process. It allows my team to recruit more athletically.
Yeah.
Because they're not trying to be perfect out of the gate. They want to hit the target.
Yeah. It gives them some space to be nimble and agile. And since you kind of said like recruit athletically, I like that terminology. And with that like analogy, it's like sports, the batting average, right? I as good as you guys are, I doubt you bat 1,000.
We
right?
don't.
And so what have you learned from some of those misses? Like, are there any specific scenarios where you're like, we went into it like this with said client, we evaluated, we thought we hit a home run, because you're not really placing anybody you don't think is going to work, but they don't all work. And so like, what have you learned from the misses, and how has that kind of recalibrated how you guys approach things over time?
Yeah, with us, I think people feel a little bit safer and more comfortable as the executive recruiter on retainer behind the scenes. I think sometimes in an interview setting, I've seen candidates press, oversell, try too hard, where we're like, we didn't really see that with us. There was a level of comfort, more dialogue. In an interview setting, it feels like, just like more at stake. And I think when, the lights are brighter, some people do just a press. So we had the pedigree right, but sometimes people don't show as a reflection of their pedigree, education, company profiles. And it's more of a subjective miss than wow, we missed the target or we missed the job description. So, the number one bit of feedback I get for candidates that we have to turn off, exit the process, they didn't stop talking. They weren't detailed enough. They painted with too broad of a brush. I couldn't get them back on, the subject. I asked them one question and they rambled for 10 minutes. So oftentimes there's less is more. So I coach my people, speak in bullet points.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, get on. Bullet points. And then double click and bring them to life.
Right. I also imagine that, these folks, assuming they're talented, they may have some other opportunities they're looking at in parallel with said opportunity that you bring into the table, and for whatever reason, whether it be personal or just certain perception of what these opportunities are. I've been in these scenarios where I'm on both sides of the table, where it's kind of like a college choice, right? Like, you know, I love IU. Like, this is where I really want to go, but I don't know if I'm going to get in, and so I'm going to kind of keep my options open, right? But you show up on that visit, or you show up in that interview, and you perform in that with that mindset of like, this isn't my first choice, right? And so you kind of, even though you've impressed throughout the process, when it comes down to it, you're almost afraid to succeed,
Yeah.
because if I do, I'm gonna have to turn this down, right? So there's all this psyche, I think, when you are the talent and
Yeah.
presented with an opportunity, that you don't want to let anybody, you don't want to let people down, you don't want to let Justin Hirsch down. He brought you all this way, right? And so but also, I'm not sure how much I want this gig, and then this kind of authenticity meter on, like, really just being willing to have a level of kind of honesty on where you're really at, where you've really been. But I find, Josh, like you, I feel like I find this space really fascinating, because it's kind of like it's like being like in this space, I feel like there's always tremendous value in this work, right? Because companies continue to grow, companies continue to add people, form new roles. It's kind of like being a doctor in labor and delivery, or work at a as a mortician, right? There's always people coming and going. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like the job. Like, I just feel like there's always something. There's always a reason to bring in an organization like this to support, your talent development. And I think it's really interesting. So,
yeah, it feels kind of like, I don't know, Justin, do you feel like it's a little bit altruistic too? I mean, like, you're helping people further their careers, right? They're moving from one spot maybe to elevate to another spot, and at the same time, you're helping a company fill a need too. It's like, it's almost like a service industry in a weird
It
way.
is. And the nuance is, I'd say 90% of all of our candidates are gainfully employed, and they're happy where they're at.
Yeah.
So here, my favorite beginning is, we reach out to a candidate who's not active on the market, who's a high potential or already on a great trajectory. They take our call, as we refer to them, and they start with, well, I'm really happy where I'm at. I'm like, great. That's where we start the conversation. We're really happy that you're happy, which means we're talking to the right person. And everything we begin is exploratory, right? We efforts to create interest from intrigue, and we convert that, because people like exploratory dialogues with no strings attached or no expectations, right? So we kind of come there.
Well, it goes back to that curiosity piece. You know what I mean? Like, I could be curious about something, but I don't have to be committed to something.
Right. And why wouldn't you want to take a call from an exploratory perspective? Number one, to get to know me and my team and the Plex, right? We're still good to have the Plex.
I like that. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, when you said the Plex, it just made me think of an ice arena. Like, that was it felt hockeyish. Like, we're going to the Plex tonight. Oh man, the Plex is so tough to play in.
We have all kinds of things. It's the Plex, right? We're still really, really good to know when you're doing great and you're happy and gainfully employed. And that's what we talk about, exploratory and intrigue. And what happens is, the intrigue does convert to interest. Our clients sometimes ask us, why are they interested in making a move? I said, they're not. They're curious. They want to hear more. They want to hear a growth story. They think it's a really cool role. So we do believe we're the asterisk in people's career journeys. It's really cool.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Do you think, like, as we're talking about career journeys and stuff, have you ever, like, you got a call for a specific role or whatever, and you put somebody up for that role that wasn't really obvious, but then they absolutely crushed it?
Favorite candidate type. We call it the wild card candidate.
Ooh, wow. We're going to talk about cards in a minute, by the way. Don't think I'm not going to talk about the card that's sitting over your right shoulder. But tell me about the wild card candidate.
So we're really, really good at reading job descriptions, but we're on retainer for a reason, right? We are there to recruit the best talent. Once again, I call it the best athlete in that functional space. We're very respectful, and we do adhere to the job description and scorecard, but we're fearless when we get excited about the wildcard candidate who's not on the spec, who maybe has tremendous IQ, even better EQ, business acumen, comes out of a maybe tangential function and just learns really, really quickly. So it does take our clients sometimes a little bit of time to reframe it. Well, not on job description. They trust us. So almost always they'll at least interview that candidate. And then on the other side, wow, really interesting candidate. I know why you put her or him forth. It's still, or he or she doesn't get hired all the time, but it's always worth the time to view creative player profiles too. I love the wildcard candidate, best athlete candidate.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
Awesome.
Like somebody that can do multiple things, who's curious, who can learn real quick, who can grow fast, who is, has that adversity tolerance. I think those are kind of like it sounds like those are some metrics that Jobplex looks at, like the Chicago Cubs. We looked at various metrics for left-handed pitchers, but Jobplex looks at various metrics as well. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, I can imagine, just like in sports, sometimes, the player that might be more of a project, but they're a significantly better culture fit,
Mhm.
right? And if they fit the culture, if we're good at our job, we can develop them in this role, right? If they're good in the role but don't fit the culture, they're not going to be here for long, right?
That's right.
And so, if it's pound for pound, I'd rather take the culture fit and have the belief that we as a team, as an org, as an individual can develop this person and train them up on the technical skills, because it's gonna be really hard to train them up on the culture fit.
And those
Right? If
those people typically are actually most promotable, and they'll go
Mhm.
from one function to the other. And we've actually tracked the successful placements. They're at a company for a minimum of 7 years in 3 different
Yeah.
roles, right?
Yeah.
The best athlete doesn't just live in his job description, more of a fungible skill set, and they can go into different functions that are tangential, right? But it does take a certain company and hiring manager to invest and kind of buy the stock of that candidate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting though too, because Harry, you just mentioned culture. Like you obviously have to know the culture of the companies that you're, that you guys are working with to bring in candidates. So how do you do that? Like, what jumps out at you in terms of like culture? How do you learn that? What are the indicators of that? If somebody's like watching from the outside, how do they read a culture so they can understand what fit needs to come in?
So we still do effort to do on-site visits. We often have to ask, right? Sometimes our clients are just kind of off and running and want candidates. We're like, we just want to do a little bit deeper assessment. I was on site at the clients yesterday. I'm Chicagoland, so it's easy just to get in the car, although the traffic still is what it is here. So there's right. So
Never ends.
right,
Never ends.
right. I know. Podcasts.
You're ready for the air taxi, bro. You're just so ready for the air taxi.
Jetsons. Love the Jetsons. I'm an 80s kid. Give me the Jetsons. Right?
It's coming.
Yeah. So it's, we ask a lot of questions. Like we probably spend 15% of our time on a job description and the other 85% on kickoff calls, getting to know the hiring managers, the executives, and just who works with whom, what's working, what's not. Like we like to have honest conversations. We like to paint real pictures to candidates, and it just takes time. Believe it or not, we do learn a bit more about the culture during the interview process from candidates. We debrief. Tell us what you experienced. How did it feel?
Yeah.
Right? Because I realized early in my career, clients are really, really, really busy. Right? Sometimes we have our weekly call for 30 minutes, but my candidates love to debrief.
Yeah.
We get real smart with our candidate debriefs about culture, about leaders, about what we shared as to what they felt. So then we go back and we calibrate. Well, I know you want this, but I heard this. Right?
Yeah.
So, one more thing I'll say with my clients, it's not a customer service business. It's a search partnership business. Like I'd be doing my clients a disservice if I enabled bad behavior or placated them or didn't share what I heard. Sometimes tough conversations are good.
Yeah.
And they always say thank you, by the way. That they appreciate that. So I
wouldn't doubt it. It's the thing that kind of jumps out at me there is I love we talk about the after action review all the time with clients and things of that nature, but it sounds like that's something that you get to really understand the culture of things. The quote that kept coming to mind as you were talking about that was there are things that count that can't be counted. And I think that's like right on point with that, where you're getting a feel. What does this place feel? You might have integrity written on the wall, but the place doesn't feel integrous at all.
Well
Like
said.
it doesn't matter what's written on the wall. It matters what you do. So,
Hey,
and
Jeff,
the feelings
did you
that
just
you
say
get.
integritous? Is that a word?
I'm making,
I like
it's
it. I mean, it
podcast.
probably is because you're a
We're
wordsmith,
just
but I
going
just
for it.
I
hadn't
like
heard
it.
that before. I love
I'm
that.
not a,
I love that.
I don't know
Integritous.
what that says about my soul, but there it is.
Integritous. So listen, I have a little bit of a transition because one thing I'm like really
We love a
eager
good
to
transition.
get to know and to share with our audience. Our audience is a lot of corporate athletes, if you will. We've used that kind of term and that analogy quite a bit. People that are on the road, weekday and weekend warriors, not only trying to achieve in their business, space, but also at home as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, etc. They're running marathons, they're doing Ironmans, whatever, right? And you since day one have come off to me as like just kind of the epitome of the corporate athlete, right? Understanding how to compete while also understanding the lead. You're in a role where you're kind of player coach,
Mhm.
CEO, and placing
We're
talent.
talking to Bill Russell, basically, of
Yeah,
Jobplex.
we're talking to Bill Russell.
Uh-huh.
Bill
Jobplex.
Russell. That's right. And so what I really want to know is what are some of the mechanisms that you are implementing from a daily hygiene perspective, from a daily habit perspective, from a relative to performance, and trying to be at your best and help you kind of actualize your own potential over time, right? Because I think your potential, in 2010 was wherever it was, and
Mhm.
now your potential is a different space, and so you're chasing just kind of a new benchmark of potential, and then kind of closing the gap between what you actualize and that potential, right? And so I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you are like? What are you on right now? Like, what's in your on that mindset playlist that you're kind of leveraging today to kind of keep you at your best? Share that stuff with us.
Because there are competing priorities and there's a lot of moving parts, um, not just in our professional lives, our personal lives, what we've brought to the Jobplex team. And again, thanks to Limitless Minds, we call it just win the day. Just win the day. So we
Hmm.
do the day, we compartmentalize the day, we don't look forward to much, right? So we do workloads every few days to check in to see what we're prioritizing. We color code our calendars, which we've studied psychologically speaking. Like your calendar is your accountability partner. So we've really developed a discipline and a focus of the day. The day then, leads to the week leads to the month, and all of a sudden you've got a great quarter. We run our business quarterly. So it starts with the Limitless Minds, just win the day. And it,
Yeah.
once again, it's helped my team not worry or
Hmm.
focus on what's next Monday or Tuesday. Today's, the day. We're doing the day.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the aggregate of marginal gains is what it sounds like, right? Just like these little victories every day. And then I love the color coding. I mean, Justin taught me this ages ago, and it's awesome. It just really helps you kind of understand, like you said, competing priorities where we're juggling multiple clients, we're talking to multiple ventures, etc. And then, oh, okay, that's an orange one, I know what that is. Oh, that's a green one, I know what that is. I heard my son has trouble with this because he's colorblind, but other than that, it works out great.
Well, what I'll say is it helps maintain a focused energy in each compartment. Where as busy as I am, I'm never exhausted, right?
Mm.
Because I'm focused. I'm into that one compartment, and then I'm on to the next one. And we focus on the process. That's our controllable. We say control your controllable. We never chase outcomes.
Yeah.
We
There
just
we
don't
go.
do it. It's not
There
our
we go.
controllable.
There we
It's
go.
our process.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. And first of all, I love what kind of something you said. We never look forward to much, right? So sometimes there's things that you're looking a little bit into the windshield to kind of from a preparation perspective and to kind of be be ready, stay ready so you can be ready. But really, what you're talking about is like that level of presence,
Mhm.
right? That compartmentalization is about being present, doing the work at a level of excellence today, so that tomorrow is ready, right? I love that. But you said the process, right? More about process than outcomes. So I know that very well this concept we talk about a lot called neutral thinking,
Mhm.
right? Which is really about being able to acknowledge the negative, but without judgment, without grading, and focus on the process that can take us that continue to kind of move us forward, right? And not so much worried about the scoreboard, if you will, right? Tell us a little bit about how what you've learned about neutral thinking and how you're using it personally and certainly the team. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and again, like, it's common language. I've been with you guys for many years. I've integrated it into our lifestyles,
Hmm.
let alone our business. So we anchor in neutrality with our clients, candidates, and colleagues, right? And it allows us to do better intake because we're not leading with confirmation biases. We're not we're not thinking about what we're going to say next. We're listening. We're staying like right in the middle,
Yeah.
right? And then honestly, it's actually led to more unflappability when you're anchored in neutrality, right? Because our I just feel like we can handle the exciting things and the pizzazz, or we can handle the really challenging things. Because like I think related, our highs aren't as high and our lows even aren't as low, right? We
Hmm.
celebrate our wins and we grind through the losses, right? But we go back to the anchor of neutrality and neutral thinking, and I think it's palpable to our clients and candidates. And I also think it does help with our actual presence. You know, we are where our feet are even during Zoom calls,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
that's like what I said, like not looking forward to the next one. I don't even know what I have on my calendar, in an hour with my next Zoom call. I've previewed it, but I'm not even thinking about that. Like I have no
Yeah.
energy into that compartment yet. And that's, not just compartmentalization, but like the neutrality of engaging others, I feel has really unlocked our next level. Probably more so
Mhm.
Yeah.
than my team even felt initially.
That's amazing. That's such a great framework in terms of, okay, here we are. We're going to stay in this middle place. We're going to stay in
Mhm.
this neutrality because then we're not going to be seduced by the allure of satisfaction, right? And I think that that's one of the things that you do so amazingly well is that you're not running to be satisfied. You're not running to an outcome. You're just excited about what's next
Mhm.
and where you are right now, and being really curious, which is like what kind of like swings it all back around for me to the thing that's over your right hand shoulder. And I wanted to bring this up, like we talked about this. So for those of you who are listening, you have a picture on the wall behind you. It's an old baseball card. I can only imagine which card is that behind you? I can't really see it.
That's a 1909 T206 Ollie Pickering card. So when I started to travel for a lot of business, like I'm a history minor and I love vintage baseball, everything. So anytime I
Mhm.
travel to a new city, so I actually kind of built my career, even though I was Chicago based, did a ton of work in Minneapolis. So it's ironic that's a Minneapolis card. So any city I went to, I just kind of studied the old baseball, and that's one of my favorite cards. That came in a cigarette pack, so they used to sell the cigarettes with the cards just to sell more
Yeah.
cigarettes. And then, you know, back in the day, people started to buy the cigarettes for the cards and just discard all the cigarettes. Issues with young kids smoking in the early 1900s. I won't get on the pedestal right there, but the cards are really, really cool. And this is the series of the famous Honus Wagner card,
Yeah,
which
got it.
is one of the most valuable cards in the world in mint condition.
Yeah, the unicorn.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because I was talking about satisfaction, and that was the thing when I got to know that about this love of yours, this love of baseball cards, and now you're getting into auction houses and things of that nature. It hit me like this is a person that satisfaction is not a value. Right. That's not why you do things. You don't do things to be comfortable and satisfied. You do things because you're curious and you want to grow and you want to learn and you have passion and you follow your
Mhm.
passions and you're living a fulfilled life.
Mhm.
Like it's amazing. Right. So tell us a little bit more about, this whole card thing and how, I mean, like what a completely not, it is and it isn't, right? It's like searching. You're constantly searching for the great stuff and then so it's a little bit the same as what you do, but it's not.
It's interesting because it's actually a little bit more than I thought it'd be. Similar.
Huh.
So I've been a collector since 1982. My dad brought me to my first in-person auction with the paddles. Like he actually had it. There was no internet.
Yeah, the little
Yeah, a
paddle, you
little paddle.
stick it
Mhm.
up. Yeah.
And I was 8, and I remember like how I could actually port myself back to the auction house room. It was like a probably crappy hotel. with,
Mhm.
put you in the room with the real shady lighting and the dirty carpet and the 30 people in the room, right?
Cigarettes back then,
Right.
1982.
But I can still remember, I can still feel my heart rate, right? The butterfly feeling. Like, so and for those people that are on video, these are the first two cards that I bought at the auction house. I have them on my desk. I look at, they're my grail cards. It's the 1969 Reggie Jackson rookie and the 1966 Jim Palmer rookie. And
Wow.
my dad, I think one was like $25, one was $35, and I couldn't believe we won both because we made the extra $5 bids. Right.
Yeah.
So those cards port me back to the memory of. Right. So for me, cards,
Yeah.
like I'm a collector, but cards, like I can look around my office and like every card I have, for the most part, I can port myself back to when did I get I've got a really good memory. When I get the card, how did I feel? That card reminds me of my early career in Minneapolis. So, I love it. I do a lot of reading, and it's just been interesting to hear the history of these players and the cards and, a simpler time, to be very, very honest. Right. It's just,
Yeah.
it's a really
Yeah.
interesting
It's
read.
almost like they're almost like totems for you,
Yeah.
right? To kind of keep you grounded.
Yeah. Yep. So 3 years ago, I decided to scale a very small venture company. So it's J Hirsch Ventures for all my other interests. Um, I go to collectible conventions. The National is in Chicago quite often. Um, my skill set in executive recruiting is very transitive to the hobby ecosystem. So I very quickly started to get to know the right people in vintage sports cards, in corporations. And I spent 3 years. Nobody likes to network, but people like to create a cultivated network that can
Mhm.
be engaged, leveraged, shared events. So I just got to know the right people. And then I'm like, I have a lot of stuff, right? So I'm going to prune my personal collection. I had a lot of good connections. There's an intersection of, boutique auction houses. I'm like, you know what? I've got the capital. I'll create the bandwidth, and I've got the network. So we've just launched. I've got 2 vintage advisors. We've got Rabbit Hole Auctions going live in
Nice.
2 weeks. Our inaugural auction runs September 28th through October 19th. We specialize in attainable vintage, primarily baseball cards. We got boxing, we've got bowling, we've got football, we've got basketball. What's that?
You got bowling?
We've
Do
got a
we have a
bowler.
Russell? Do we have a Russell Wilson rookie card?
So Russ is not vintage yet as it relates to his
Yeah.
cards.
Good, because he's still playing.
He's still playing. But shout
go.
out, I do have the Russ Colorado Rocky card
Oh, do you?
in my PC. Oh yeah.
That's cool.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Because in the
Nice.
in the rabbit
Come
hole
on.
has the oddities, the rarities, and just the unique stuff. So, like we're known for attainable vintage, and you don't know, like, what's the rabbit hole make you, how does it make you feel? You don't know what you're gonna see in the rabbit hole, right? So
Mhm.
people can come to our auction house without a checklist, and they can be curious to see some oddities, rarities, and it's $100 to $10,000. We're friendly with the big auction houses, right? I'm a client of, but it's really hard to spend all of that money on one collectible. So in our auction, people can buy multiple things for a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s. Really cool stuff. I love
Cool.
it. It's a ton of work.
So when you say auction house, though, this is going to be an online situation, or is there actual
Yeah.
physical location?
So thus far we are exclusively online. So it's rabbit
Mhm.
hole auctions with an s.com. Yes,
Got it.
exclusively.
Love it.
Yeah. So really cool stuff. It's been so much fun. So at the National, I had 18 business meetings. Plus I was buying for my PC.
That's awesome. PC, by the way, is
Yep.
not computer; it's your personal collection.
It's my personal
I figured
collection.
that
Thank
out
you.
right there. That's curiosity.
Thank
It was
you.
locked in. That's
Yeah.
present, J. Hirsch. Come on.
Side note
Next
side
level.
note to put in your, in the back of your mind, because you keep on saying rabbit hole auctions. I know you're also a big bourbon guy. Okay. Justin Hirsch has a wonderful bourbon collection that I've yet to be able to truly enjoy, but it's coming soon, right? But they're down here in Louisville, Kentucky, where I live. We have some wonderful distilleries, right? And there's a distillery that's fantastic that's actually in downtown Louisville called Rabbit Hole. And so when you come to Louisville, we'll have to take you to Rabbit Hole Distillery and share a bourbon experience. But also, I should introduce you to the founder. Maybe there's some sort of partnership like there. You know what I mean? Who knows? I don't know if you can bring your
I love
love
it.
for
People
bourbon.
can just like drink a ton of bourbon before they
Yeah.
start bidding
Yeah.
on cards.
What a great way to get people
That's
juiced
That
up.
would
You know
work
what I
out
mean?
well.
Kidding me? But like a little
That's-
bourbon and your love for bourbon, your love for as a collector, like we got to marry those two things together somehow.
Make this
I love it.
I love
You
it.
know?
That's
I
awesome.
love it. Great idea.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey, you up?
Listen, we're right up against it for time, and Harry doesn't know this, but this is a Success Leaves Clue. Harry thinks it's just a Limitless Minds podcast. It's a Success Leaves Clues podcast. I snuck in here. So one of the things we always do at the end of the Success Leaves Clues podcast is we kind of state what we heard from you that we think adds into your personal success. So the two big things that I heard over and over and over again throughout this interview and this talk and this conversation were, number one, curiosity, right? Curiosity over judgment. Be curious left and right. That's one of your driving values it's led you to heights beyond heights. And then the other thing was staying right here, right now, staying small with my focus and executing my process versus worrying about my outcome. So those are the two things I got. What did you get, Harry?
Well, I was going to say my one big thing, and you stole it. You took it from me, which is the presence piece. But like specifically, and I mentioned it earlier, that kind of really, intentionally not looking forward too much, right? And being in the moment and executing now, right? And it's to kind of what you were just saying, Josh. I mean, I love that. And I think that's whether you're a leader in business, whether you're an athlete, whether you're just think about how you're kind of leading and managing your family. I think that it's important. Now I think that it's something to really be thoughtful about, because a lot of people are chasing happiness, right, and joy. And a lot of people kind of define happiness, not everybody, but some people define happiness as like having things to look forward to. But I think those two things are different. Like the concept of not looking forward to much means, not having kind of this like long, like worrying about the future, right? And
So Harry,
trying to play the game.
I call that time traveling. So, I want to be clear. It's fun to be excited about what you have on the docket, but when you look forward to too much and you're so far over your skis, like you kind of miss the day. You miss it.
Yeah.
And time traveling does create anxiety, uncertainty. And Josh, what's the percentage of thoughts in your mind that are negative?
Yeah, it could be
when you're
anywhere
not
from
talking to
75
yourself?
to 90%.
Right. And I think a lot of that is those thoughts, I think, are first cousins to time traveling.
Yeah.
And looking forward to too much.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great way to clarify that for people that are thinking, oh, like but I like looking forward. But I think that's I think that's a great clarification and a great way to think about it relative to, how you were kind of intentionally mentioning it earlier. So I love that. Hey, Josh, as we close, I wanted to ask Justin one more question, or just kind of touch on something. So you're wearing your Indiana Hoosier pullover, a 3/4 pullover there. Looks good in white.
Thank you.
And you sent off your son recently, Mason, to Bloomington. And one thing that I would love for you to share with the audience is like, Mason had the opportunity as a youngster, in high school, to like bring, kind of the idea of mental conditioning and mindset into his world, right? Which is something that I think as parents, many of the folks who are listening and parents are like, would like love for their kids to have access to something like that. Right now, you were lucky enough and smart enough to provide that access for Mason. And from all these conversations I've had with you behind the scenes, it sounds like not only did it, impact him, but he wrote about it.
He did.
He told a little bit of that story. Share with us real quick, like what he wrote and for what and how that went.
So, again, very fortunate. I met Josh at a great time in his life and his career, and actually in my life and in my career, including my son, who is an elite baseball player throughout his his early teens and teens. And Josh worked with Mason primarily, I'd say maybe once or twice a month over a course of a couple years on how to really be where your feet are when you play the game of baseball
Mhm.
and how to manage your anxiety, pressure, and stress in a sport that is built on failure, which is a very tough word for teenagers with frontal lobes developing.
Mhm.
So, what I saw with Josh and Mason, and I actually did not, I did not uh, join the sessions because I think you got to train them at home to be accountable and be present, and you know. But I saw that the training went well beyond baseball.
Mhm.
That he's always been. So I talk about my son was born on his due date,
Mhm.
so he's always been literal, accountable, and disciplined.
Mhm.
And what the training with Josh did uh, throughout actually his end of middle school and high school unlocked a certain type of discipline, calmness, and he saw the power of routine. And when I said earlier, controlling your controllables, that's what he and I and Josh have talked about for many, many years, right? Like when you're in the box, when you're on the field. And now, he wrapped up a wonderful baseball career, had a couple choices to make, chose to go to IU, which we're thrilled with. And the skills that he learned actually were life skills,
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
just baseball skills,
Yeah.
where his transition has been fantastic. His ability to communicate, engage with others, to manage his calendar, and to really be independent. So, I actually was thinking about this last night. All the reps, right? These are like, these were athletic reps, but these were life reps, life skill reps,
Yes, sir.
and building confidence along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful. And,
That's cool.
I, uh, as a dad, right, to experience that with your kid, there's nothing better.
Yeah.
It's roots and wings.
Yeah. How's it been without him in the house?
I've got more time for rabbit hole auctions.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that for an
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah. Love it, man.
That's
How's
a good
that?
answer, man. I love it. I love it. Well, with that, we are gonna wrap this up. And I don't know, Harry, do you wanna take us out, or you want me to do it?
Oh man, I mean, just Justin, we appreciate hearing from you and sharing, your insights and your knowledge with our audience, and hopefully we get a chance to maybe bring you on for a part two. But I think that we're just grateful for you to be here and for the group, for the audience. Remember, you don't have to be sick